I'd say in the last 5 years, there's been a whole turnaround. There's a book based on the writings that you guys have been involved with by Lynn Grabhorn, Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting. It's a user-friendly version to get started with the law of attraction. It just spoke my language. It articulated everything I was trying to get a hold of. And it really changed my life in the sense of taking responsibility for the emotions and the vibrations that I'm sending out. It came right on the heels of a whole series of bizarre, dysfunctional relationships. I'm thinking, this stuff is too much in common. I'm attracting this, and I don't know what to say beyond that. And that's when this book fell off the shelf, and it just was amazing. Having said that, you work through these issues. It's a tremendous layout. But you're still trying to refine this. Now, what's the better way to attract something and cut down the wait time? How do you identify your own resistance? That's a serious question, isn't it?
Well, it is. And the wait time is directly relational to the vibrational difference between what you want and where you are consistently offering the vibration. So the way you cut down the wait time or close that gap is by right now taking the emotional journey. In other words, that's what we're talking about here today. You heard us earlier. We said in 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 minutes, you can shift your vibration. While if you had to figure out all the hows and the wheres and the who's and the whens, it would take much, much longer. And so when you begin to leverage yourself by adjusting your vibration, you can close the wait time up instantly.
I do that in a lot of scenarios, and it's as powerful as Harry Potter putting his hand out. You get into a situation, but come on, that's what that whole thing's about too. It's us learning our power, finding out who we are and what our real inheritance is. So all this is coming on the stage at the same time. But I've been doing this more and more in a lot of areas. Now, I'll say this. I got laid off after a 17-year stint with EDS back in 2002. And at that time, I was in the middle of the Abraham thing. I was in the middle of some other great authors, Cryon, the group. Everything's coming onto the stage. And it was like, this is it. You're jumping off a bridge. Let's see what Spirit has for you. It's a tight market. Everything's best, but let's have fun.
Listen to the point that you're trying to make with us. Listen to the intent of your offering here. What you're saying or what you're asking is, why is it not working better for me? Why does it take so long? And what we would like, as you hear what we're going to give you next, you're going to find magic in these words. When you ask a question that you believe you will like the way the answer sounds when it comes, you've asked the question that's serving you. Now, think about it. There are 3 steps to the creative process. The first step is ask, and you can't help but do that. Contrast helps you do that. Right. The second step isn't your work, that's source answering. The third step is your work. You've got to be vibrationally in alignment with what you're asking for. So hear the difference. When a person is asking a question or asking for something, they're usually beating the drum of the absence of where they want to be. In other words, I want this thing that I do not have. How can I get this thing that I do not have? Stay with this just for a minute, because we're right on the brink of something for you. So when you ask the question, often we've said to our physical friends, it's better if somebody else sits in the hot seat and asks your question, because you can't ask a question and at the same time be in vibrational alignment with the answer, usually. Because usually in the asking of the question, you're inflaming all of your opinion and attitude and proof of it not working. That's why you're asking the question. It's like, please tell me this thing I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Please give me the answer to this thing I can't understand, I can't understand, I can't understand. But feel the trick, magic methodology in asking the question in a way that you expect the answer to be pleasing. So hear the difference between saying, why doesn't it work for me? And what do I need to do to make it work? Hear the difference in a question, in the mood or attitude behind a question that says, everything in my life shows me that this isn't working, and a statement that says, I am anticipating having a breakthrough on such and such. So we just want to say to you that we're appreciating the amount of thought that you've given to this, but it's almost as if you're trying to convince us of the rightness of where you stand, where you're not standing where you want to stand. And that's why we began earlier by saying, pick a direction and then make the direction feel good to you, and that's how you line up the energy. Good. Now what?
Well, the point I want to make is that in 9 months after that, I did a lot of the energy work, a lot of the stuff I'd gotten from the Abraham stuff and some other great sources. I got the job of my dreams within the same marketplace, but I'd put some caveats on it. I want to come in there and be a teacher and, bring out the hero. This is very similar stuff to what I did before. But the point is, everything I put on the list, I got. It's 10 minutes from home. It's the dollar amount I wanted, blah, blah, blah. But I still waited 9 months. I still had to play with that roller coaster of emotions. And, I did everything I knew to do that.
Well, here's this thing. You didn't have to play with it, and you won't have to play with the roller coaster of emotions as much next time, because in that process, you learned what thoughts are beneficial and what thoughts aren't. In other words, through trial and error, you learn what moods and attitudes yield you faster results and what moods and attitudes yield you longer results. Here is the absolute about law of attraction. When you want something and you believe it, it's going to happen instantaneously. When you want something that you don't believe, you've set up a buffer of time in there. And the longer you beat the drum of not believing it, the longer you hold yourself in the absence of what you want. And so that's why the words that we're using today are reach for the thought that feels better, because in the relief of the feeling, you're releasing the resistance, which is the reason for the buffer of time that makes it feel like it's being held apart from you. It isn't being held apart from you. It's that you haven't vibrationally come into alignment with what it is. When you desire something, you launch it, and it exists in a vibrational frequency that then you have to line up with. It's just that simple.
And that was the exercise for that 9 months. I mean, everything that happened during that 9 months was a part of a journey. It was great.
So what's your question today?
Question would be basically to go through that again. What would I have done differently? Have the assurance going in that this thing's going to work out.
Well, you see, but that's a little tricky, because what you're saying is, if I knew then what I know now, then I would have vibrated differently. And we say, so what? You say, well, I would like to go back and redo that. And we say, why? Here you are is where you are. And regret is the most wasted of time emotions, because regret is trying to adjust a vibration in the past where you have no power. All of your power is right here and now. You don't have any power in the future either. Tomorrow is never going to get here, because when it gets here, it's today. So tomorrow never ever comes. It's always today when it gets here. And today, now, is where all of your power is, you see. And so sometimes what we can hear and feel from our physical friends is somewhere along your physical trail, and this happens because of your relationships with each other and your natural comparative relationships with each other. You find yourself coming to conclusions which then you want to validate, and especially if you're interacting with others. We notice sometimes that you will have an opinion about something that may be even a different opinion from somebody else. And then it's sort of like most of you would rather be right in your opinion than happy. It's like, for example, sometimes Jerry or Esther, it happens with both of them, but let's say they will have a difference of opinion about which way to go, route-wise. Magellan complicates it still further, because she's got another idea altogether usually. So now there are 3 of them trying to co-create. But let's say here's Jerry and Esther, and they have a difference of opinion of which way to go. And sometimes Esther will, in fact, usually she will yield to Jerry's sense of direction. But sometimes she's so sure that she's right that she will actually hope that things won't go well, just to prove how right she was. In other words, she'd rather be right than have a comfortable journey. So sometimes there'll be a computer glitch, and Esther will think she knows the way to fix it, and somebody else will have another idea of the way to fix it. And sometimes she would rather be right than just have it go more easily. And it's because somewhere along your physical trail, you have been compared by others and you sort of care. You said to us, the point I'm trying to make is, and that there's a big thing in that. I'm trying to make a point. I'm trying to make a statement. I'm trying to be of value. I'm wanting to be a teacher. I'm wanting to lead the right way. And what all of that translates into is, I want to be right. And we want to say to you, you can't get it wrong and you're never going to get it done. And so what if it wasn't exactly right? You're figuring that out as you go. And we want you to start enjoying the flexibility of being able to move around and continue to regain your balance. We want you to get out into the world and enjoy the adventure of a whole lot coming at you without having this baggage that so many of you carry around that says someone or a lot of someones are scrutinizing me for the correctness of what I'm about. We would like you to just give all of that up and just relax and enjoy finding your place. We can feel from you, and not just from you, but a lot of you. You have this impression or perception of a whole lot of eyes looking on you, whether they're the eyes of the non-physical or the eyes of God or the eyes of the masses, the opinions of the world. And it matters to you that you be right. And so we want to sort of drop a bomb on you and say, you can't be right for everybody. You can't even be right in this moment for everything that you'll ever be. And you certainly can't be right for everything that you've ever been. All you can do is, in this moment, do your best to line up. In this moment, do your best to line up. And never mind any of the rest of all of that stuff. It's sort of a waste of effort. Now, it may feel to you that we've deviated from your subject a little bit, but we are always answering the vibration that we feel bubbling within. In other words, that's the basis of what you're reaching for. We want you to just stand fresh in this moment and not try to figure out anything that has been, and just try to figure out from where I am now, how do I get to where I want to be? And we want you to understand, here's the most important thing that we will ever say to you. How do I get from where I am to where I want to be? And the where I want to be is always in a better feeling place. Everything you want, whether it's a material object, whether it's money, whether it's a bodily condition, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a circumstance or event, every single thing that you ever want is because you think you will feel better in the having of it. So when you get it, that where I want to be is just in a better feeling place, then you realize that in every moment, what your work is to relax and soothe yourself into letting in what you want. That is your work. Your work is to relax and allow the universe to yield to you what you're asking for. That's it.
Let's ask this, and I'll get out of here as quick as I can. You're talking from the point of influence, the Christian thing was intercession and prayer and that sort of thing, but that all works. And you see things where you feel...
Because why does it work?
But not consistently.
Well, but it works when it works, and it doesn't work when it doesn't work, but the reason it works is always the same reason, and the reason it doesn't work is always the same reason. In other words, there's no inconsistency in alignment of energy. You could pray in alignment and it would work, or you could pray out of alignment and it wouldn't work, so some prayers work and some prayers don't work, but alignment always works, and misalignment never works. That was good.
Mm-hmm. Should record it. But the expenditure of energy and some of that stuff, where I've targeted stuff I want for, let's say, myself or somebody else, I press into that place.
We love your words. We love your words. We want you to do it for me. We want you to expend your energy in the emotional journey, not in the action journey.
No, this is emotional journey. I'm talking about wrestling to get this alignment where I'm saying in my own doubts, I'm not taking no for an answer. I'm pressing this, and whatever the static and flack is that says I'm making a fool of myself, I'm going there.
But the difference and the thing that's happening to you is that it's the reason that we softened the title of this workshop from Science of Deliberate Creation to Art of Allowing. It's that difference that we're wanting you to feel, because there's a difference between wrestling something to the ground in determination and relaxing into well-being. And we want you to accept that to a certain you can make things happen to a certain extent with brute will and force and that kind of determination. But it is relaxing into an expectation of things going right for you that you're wanting to overlay over your vibration. It's softening, it's loving yourself enough to let it in. It's like, feel the difference between I'm right, I've done the right things, I've lined up in the right way, and this should come to me, which is a sort of demanding demanding, determined vibration that's full of resistance and saying, I think I've done the right things and I'm expecting good things to come, and things usually go well for me, and life is good, and Source loves me, and well-being abounds, and there's no reason that this shouldn't flow easily into my experience.